Concerned about an issue in your life? Need some legal direction? You've come to the right place. Welcome to 5-Minute Legal Insights, a podcast that features top lawyers from across the country and delivers bite-sized moments of pure gold, so you can benefit from years of legal know-how in just minutes. Each week, we bring you the things that make the big difference, so you know how to approach your legal situation with confidence and clarity. Now, here's your host and founder of the law firm Authority Network, Grant Eagle.
Welcome to the show, everybody. And today I'm here again with Christine Paulding, one of our regular featured guests and founding partner at Seven Cities Law, one of the leading criminal defense firms in Virginia Beach. And as a follow-on from our last episode where Christine shared some of the little-known facts most parents are simply unaware of regarding the power of the authorities and how that affects their children at school, today we're talking essential facts parents need to know when it comes to hiring a lawyer if their child is facing a criminal charge. Welcome back, Christine.
Hi, Grant. Thanks for having me again.
We were talking off air about juvenile cases, and one of the big points that hit me when you were sharing that information with me was how the juvenile court system is completely different to really, normal adult state court.
Yeah, so if your child ends up getting arrested or they get a traffic ticket or a summons, they're going to appear in a different court than where you as an adult would go. And juvenile court just has different procedures that they're going to follow because they have different goals, such as an adult, if I get a speeding ticket, I'm probably going to pay a fine. There's some level of punishment for breaking the law. Yeah. But in juvenile court, it's all about learning, accepting responsibility for mistakes and kind of rehabilitation. So they're two different courts.
So if you're looking to hire a lawyer and you're a parent, listen to this. Is it fair to say that when it comes to being in front of the judge, you need a lawyer that understands the kind of things that you can negotiate on, which are different really to normal adult court?
Absolutely. I think it's common that a mom or a dad would go in to their Google and type, criminal defense lawyer or traffic lawyer or lawyer for a burglary. But really, if the person you're hiring the lawyer for is your child, you want an attorney who specializes in juvenile criminal defense, or at least who has experience in the juvenile courts, because there's going to be different procedural rules and substantive rules that lawyer needs to know.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned to me just on that point that, for example, juveniles are held and released differently compared to adults.
Yeah, so if you're arrested and you're an adult, you're probably going to post a bond to get out, some kind of monetary amount. Well, that's not always reasonable for juveniles. Yeah. And really, courts can put your child in a detention center if it's a serious crime, or they could release them with certain monitoring and rules to make sure that they come back to court and to make sure that they'll comply with not getting in any trouble before that court date.
And how long can people be held, or a child be held for?
Well, here in Virginia, you can hold a juvenile, and then you have these what are called detention reviews. And if you are continuously held in custody, the court is going to continue to review your child's status within every 30 days. So that's a big difference than if you're an adult. If you're an adult and the court says, well, you're going to stay in jail until it's your court date because your crime is serious, you could be sitting for months at a time. But a juvenile would get a checkup every 30 days to see, well, do we still want to hold this child here, or is it becoming more harmful to them as opposed to releasing them?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Now, the other thing you mentioned to me, which you thought was a really, really big point for parents to get to grips with, is that they've got to be comfortable with the lawyer, but also that their child has as well, right?
Well, your child is the client. So even though you're the one making the phone calls and setting up the appointment and paying the lawyer's fee, you have to recognize that the lawyer is responsible to the child. And so you have to be able to sit down as a juvenile lawyer and have a conversation with a 13-year-old girl or a 15-year-old boy without their parent present. Yeah. So as a parent, you want to make sure that you're picking a lawyer that you trust your child to be alone with, and someone who your child's going to open up with and talk to and ask questions.
Yeah.
Because you're not always going to be in the room when those meetings are happening.
Yeah. And you said there's another key relevance to this, which is you've got to establish something called competency with the child, right?
Well, anyone who goes to court needs to be competent to have a court proceeding, meaning they have to understand what the proceedings are going on against them,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to be able to assist their lawyer. So a lot of times in adults, a individual is not competent because they have some type of mental illness. But in the juvenile realm, sometimes you have a 12 or a 13-year-old and they just simply don't understand because of their youth. So
Yeah.
the only way I, as a lawyer, can determine if your child is competent and they understand what's going on is if I sit with them kind of one-on-one and ask them questions and make sure that they can kind of speak back to me and reiterate what's happening to them and do they understand why they're there, things of that nature.
Yeah, and you said that it can vary from age to age, and not always older children sometimes get it as much as some of the younger ones do.
Well, yeah, every child is different. So I've seen teenagers who are a little bit older, 16 or 17, but maybe have had a learning disability, so they didn't quite understand the proceedings. And
Yeah.
you have to just spend a little bit more time with them, which might mean a few more meetings than I would have with an adult client.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure as a parent that you're picking a lawyer who's going to give the time and the energy needed to your child and your child's case.
Yeah, it's absolutely key. Now, just to, make the point on how important choosing the right lawyer is when it comes to juvenile cases, what are some of the potential downsides if I'm a parent and I don't make a good decision?
Well, I think the biggest downside is if you pick a lawyer who your child isn't comfortable with, your child's not going to open up to them.
Yeah.
And we talked about in a previous podcast how it was really important to be transparent, to be open and honest with your lawyer.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, as if you pick someone who isn't as familiar with the juvenile system, you might miss out on the benefits of being in juvenile court, which is we're trying not to punish your child. We're trying to rehabilitate your child so that they don't do this again.
Yeah.
So if your lawyer doesn't know the different sentencing options or they don't know the different programs that are available, they may not ask for those things, when a more experienced lawyer will know how to get your child into court and out of court with the least damage to their permanent criminal record.
Yeah. And do you have any sort of examples of cases where you've handled, a case where a child's facing a potential criminal charge and how, you've dealt with that particular case?
Sure. So in Virginia Beach, where I do most of my practicing, almost every gun charge for a juvenile is certified. So if you have a child who maybe committed a robbery and they had a BB gun and you're 15 or 16 years old, our prosecutors are going to try to certify your child to become an adult. And really, that's the last thing we want, is if I, as an attorney, can keep you out of adult court and keep you in juvenile court, I'm going to do everything I can in my power to do that. So it's about then negotiating different plea options and sentencing options that may keep your child in the juvenile system, because the juvenile system just offers a greater array of rehabilitative sentences. Whereas once you go up into the adult courts, sometimes those things are allowed, but they look at you as if you're an adult. Your crime is serious enough for you to be up here, so sometimes the sentencing gets harsher.
Okay.
So I'm always looking to try to keep my client in juvenile court if that certification card is played, meaning the prosecutors come to me right away and say, this is a child who we're going to try to get up to adult court. And that tip-off lets me know that I need to get to work.
All right. So if you're a parent listening to this now, and there was one piece of advice you would get someone to take away from today's podcast, what would it be?
Take time interviewing lawyers. You do not have to pick the first lawyer that you meet just because you're panicking. Parents see that their child has been arrested for something that sounds serious and they say, oh my God, I have to have someone immediately. No, take a couple days, make a couple phone calls, ask questions, and then choose who the right person is for you and your child. Do your research. I think that putting the time and attention into it up front will be better for you.
That's great advice. All right, Christine, look, thanks for today. Really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the next episode already. And for everybody listening, for everybody listening to this, Christine details are going to be right underneath the podcast. Just click through, you'll go straight through to her website and she'll be happy to take your call. All right, Christine, thanks again, and we'll catch up soon.
You too, Grant. Have a good one.
All right.
Thanks for joining us in this episode of 5-Minute Legal Insights. If you'd like to contact our featured guest, just check the highlights on their episode page at www.legalinsightspodcast.com, and you'll find their phone number, email, as well as their website. Oh, and if you're a lawyer with something to say, then just get in touch. 5-Minute Legal Insights, helping people get clear on their legal issue in minutes. The views expressed by the participants are their own and are not endorsed by 5-Minute Legal Insights. Nothing said in this podcast is legal advice for you.